Hello, thanks for checking out my video. Today we are going to be working on our visual motor integration skills as we complete these maze worksheets. If the maze activity is a relatively new idea for your student, we may want to start with some other methods of completing this or of teaching it before we just go straight into the pencil completion. So we have a couple different ways we can do it. We have the paint, some glue, maybe a little Play-Doh, different sort of visual cues to use, maybe the letters. But I think to start with, what I'd like to do is to just add maybe a kind of like an edible component to it, just so that we understand kind of the path that we need to take. So maybe I'll just drop out a couple of these dried cranberries here. You can use anything, M&Ms or peanuts or whatever your favorite little snack food is. And so I can drop these out along the pathway here for this dinosaur to try to eat. And then I can go about using my bulb tongs and kind of retrieving each one along the way. So I think I'll start with that. So I'm going to go ahead and arrange just these little pieces here of the dried cranberry along the way. And this is something that parents or teachers can do just to get this activity started here. Maybe I'll get some of my other stuff out of the way first before I complete this portion here. So I'll get my other worksheet out of the way and I'll focus just on this one here. And so really I'm just going to try to follow this pathway here, and once I do that, then we could start by either picking up the pieces just with our fingers, or we can use our bulb tongs. That one's going to be too small. We'll get our bulb tongs out here and use our bulb tongs to follow along this pathway. And it looks like I'm running a little low on the cranberries here, so maybe I'll stretch it out just a little bit. And we're going to try to feed this dinosaur these cranberries here. We got to get all the way in there. So one thing we can start with is just with our fingers, going along, picking up each one, getting some nice pincer grasp, maybe even nesting it into our hand as we go, or you can go ahead and eat it as you like. But for me, I think I'm going to go ahead and start by nesting this material. So I'm going to go along the path, pick it up with my pincer grasp, nest it into my palm, and get the other one. So I'm going to go all the way around, and you're going to have to really work with your student here to complete this in some sort of pattern so that we're not just grabbing as we go. We want to make sure that we're following along all the way into the path, picking up each little piece as we go, and then we are here at the dinosaur. So another way we could have done that is with our bulb tongs. We could have worked on some pre-scissor skills if we wanted to complete this portion here with the bulb tongs instead of the pincer and the nesting. That would be totally fine as well. And we can go ahead and transfer these back into the cup that we were using, or just eat them, whatever you'd like to do. And we will move on to the next activity. Another way to use this worksheet is by introducing some physical or tactile cue or a visual cue, much like the Play-Doh would offer us here. So we can roll out little worm pieces of Play-Doh here, and then we can use these to either lay down our pathway or to kind of create a border around our pathway here, so that maybe when we go to use our pencil, we can just follow along the inside of the Play-Doh. Or if your student is trying to use the Play-Doh, we can use the Play-Doh just like this, just to create our path. So that's just another another way to do this activity here. And then as we go along, we can make sure that we stay, within our boundary here just by following along this little Play-Doh path that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this maze with my Play-Doh. Now that I have my Play-Doh down on the paper, I can use it as a visual and tactile cue by leaving it out here as a kind of a guide for my pencil as I go along and complete my maze. Or I can use this opportunity to introduce some fine motor skills. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend as though my hand was this dinosaur and was very hungry, and I'm going to eat all of these worms as I go along the pathway. So I've used this worksheet here with a little bit of Play-Doh and was just pinching and nesting into the palm of my hand. This is really developing some good radial precision, the same skill that we would use if we were to use a dynamic tripod grasp for writing. So that was how we would use it with Play-Doh, and we can obviously use like a highlighter pen, and then we can just put some visual cues out along the path this way. So we are kind of connecting the dots a little bit. This is just another way to use this worksheet. So I'm going to go ahead and do this part ahead of time for my student, or my client, to then trace along these visual cues to get to the final part of that maze there. So that's another way we can use this worksheet. A different way to do it now would be with, say, stickers. You can use stickers as your visual cue. I like these letter stickers because we can practice the alphabet as well. So we can put out maybe just a couple of these guys. We want to go from A to B, and then we're going to put C way over here, and D, and we're going to put D along this pathway almost at every kind of transition point is what I'm hoping to achieve. By doing that, I'm hoping to achieve like a full arc. So one full descending arc, and then this one will be one full ascending and descending arc. So I'm really trying to elongate my pen stroke or pencil stroke with each connection of the visual cue there. So keep that in mind. See, my next one will be E. And then this one I'm going to do all the way over here. F. And then G will be, I'll just see here. G will be right in the middle. Perfect. So that's just another way we can use this worksheet here to our advantage. So you can use the letter stickers. Of course, if you're working on letters, this would be great for you. Because you'd be able to maybe stop at the letter, the sticker that you're on here, and practice copying the letter that you stop on, or you can trace the letter there. Of course, if you're not quite working on letters or letter recognition, we can also work with some other stickers. So I have these little foam stickers here of shapes. We can put the shapes out along the path too, instead of our letters, so that we're working on either shape recognition, so from the circle to the square to the circle, or we can just keep the same shape out there but with different colors, so we can go from blue to purple. So that's just another another variation to, kind of match your child's skill level. So now I'm ready to complete the maze, and I can add maybe a bold line here for stopping, because I know that's a dead end. So maybe we can just add an extra little visual cue there. And then I will grab a writing instrument. For this purpose, I think I will use, actually I'm going to use my colored pencil today. And I'm going to make sure that I stabilize the paper with my non-dominant hand. And then I'm going to use these visual cues to complete my maze. So I can use every tool that I have in my tool bag here. As I'm doing this, I can use just these short visual cues here and complete this in segments if I would like to. So I go from pink dot to pink dot, or I can have a more continuous arch here as I go from letter to letter. And then if I really wanted to make sure that I had my pencil on the paper the entire time, I can use something like a paper clip that I've attached a sticker onto. And we want to make sure that this butterfly makes it all the way around. So we will put our pencil inside the paper clip, and if we pick up our pencil, we left the butterfly behind. But we want to make sure that we are going to keep this butterfly with us the whole time, following our visual cues along the path. Pink dot to pink dot, letter to letter. I'm still keeping the butterfly on the paper here, so that's indicating to me that I'm using one continuous pen stroke. And I'm really using a lot of strong visual motor skills and visual perception skills ahead of where my pencil is. So I'm able to kind of use my peripheral vision maybe a little bit to scan ahead and see the next visual cue along the way. And then I'm able to complete my motor action with this pencil. All the while, I'm making sure that it's just a continuous process here. So I'm continuing to scan ahead for my next visual cue, and my motor skills are following along seamlessly here as I complete this. And now the dinosaur has a butterfly to eat. So I'm pretty much done with this worksheet here, but just this one simple worksheet, I was able to really change up the activity drastically, all the way from making little worms with Play-Doh, or even using my bulb tongs to pick up items along the way. Or I was able to use these stickers here as visual cues. But if I was really interested in my writing portion of this, I could have copied my letters as I went along. So I'd go from A to B, and then copy B, and then I'd go from B to C, and then write C along this side. And then I was able to use just a paper clip and a sticker to ensure that I'm using one continuous stroke, which is really developing our visual motor skills and visual motor integration skills. So just this one simple worksheet we are able to use in a couple different ways, but I think I'm done with this one for now. So I think I'd like to get it out of the way, and then I can use my second worksheet here in a completely different way. So for this maze, we can go back and use our same techniques here that we just did. If those are the materials that you have, that's fine. It's a great way to do that. But for this one, I have a little bit of extra paint, and I have this paintbrush here that's kind of a thin handle. So it's really going to force me to use a little bit more fine motor precision here with my approach, or I can really stabilize my object a little bit more with like a brush grasp. But we don't want to see this fisted grasp here. We want to work on some fine motor skills. So I'm going to use this thing and some paint. Another way we can do it, if you don't have paint but you have glue, you can use your glue bottle. and trace along the path with your glue, or you could have your student, or maybe you can put out a couple dots and they can use their paintbrush and paint the path with the glue, and then you can sprinkle some glitter on there if you had those materials with you. But for the purpose of what I would like to do today, I think I'd like to just put a couple drops of paint along the way, and then use my paintbrush to connect the paint drops all the way to the finish line. So I think I'll go ahead and add my paint drops. And I can go ahead and connect my dots with just a pencil if I really wanted to. But I think for me, I'm going to use my paintbrush today. I'm going to have a little bit more fun with this. So I'm just going to put my paintbrush down. I'm looking for a dynamic tripod, maybe in a grasp with extended fingers. I'd like to see a little bit more precision around the corners if I had my preference. But really just participating in this activity is getting some good work in. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these dots with my paintbrush. Now that I've used my paintbrush to complete my paint drops, I can reuse this worksheet if I have a Q-tip with me. So I will trace along this red dotted line now with a clean Q-tip. So let's see what happens. So I'm getting some good visual motor integration practice. Maybe about right here, I can stop and flip it around and use the other clean side now. So I can create a nice pathway with this paint. And just like that, we've used it twice with a couple different tools here, and really got a lot of great visual motor integration practice with just this very simple worksheet. So that's the activity for today. Just to recap, we were able to develop some really great pincer grasp skills and nesting with our Play-Doh. We were able to get some good visual motor integration skills developed here as we actually completed this maze. We were able to work on some pre-scissor skills with our bulb tongs. We were able to make this exercise maybe a little bit more about writing, about your visual perception. So we went from the letter recognition here to then reproduction of the letter. We were also able to use some simple things like stickers and this paper clip to increase our kind of range here as we completed this in one continuous stroke. And really we were just starting out with some visual motor integration worksheets here, but we were able to work on all of these different skills. So I really hope you found it useful, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions on how to implement these strategies with your student.